Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Martha from Martha Is. Today's video is my mid-month August wrap-up. So that is all of the books that I have read in the first half of August. Before I go much further, I should say my neighbour is very helpfully drilling on a Sunday. Lovely. They're also drilling at like 10 o'clock on a Saturday night, which I didn't appreciate. Anyway, I digress. So yes, this is a book which is all about the, oh my god, you can tell I haven't recorded a video in a while because I have no bloody clue what I've been doing, and this is probably the 5th or 6th time I've tried to start this video, but let's persist. These are all the books that I read in the first half of August. Let's just get on with it, shall we? So, the first book I read is this one, which is Love Your Body by Jessica Sanders. This was a birthday gift from my parents off my wish list. And it was put on my wish list because of Jo, who is the Little Literary Society on Instagram, and I will link her account down below. She has an absolutely amazing account where she recommends children's books, and the range is just absolutely incredible. I mean, I don't have kids, so obviously I'm not as exposed to kids' books as people who do have kids, but I'm still always just completely bowled over by how many there are out there. Like, it's wild. And what I love about kids' books in so many cases, the artwork. You know, when I talk about kids' books, I mean like picture books primarily. The artwork on some of these is absolutely incredible. And FYI, if my mother is watching this, you are not allowed to go on this person's Instagram because she has given me recommendations for you for birthdays and Christmases for years. So you are, no. But yes, so this is one that I discovered via Jo at Little Literary Society, and my parents bought this for me. So this is a picture book, as you can imagine, all about loving your body. So I don't really know what to say about it. It's kind of what it says on the tin. So it talks about, you know, bodies coming in, you know, all different shapes and sizes and abilities and forms and colours and, you know, etc, etc. So, and it's got really lovely artwork. Yeah, and it's fantastic. I thought, you know, it's a really important, really great message to be sending out to kids. So I believe this is intended for kids of about 8 or above. And it's not just talking about how different bodies, such as there are different bodies, to raise awareness and of that. It's also talking about what happens when, you know, you're feeling a little bit down, and talking about the importance of self-care. So this page is a double page spread of like tips if you're feeling a bit down. So saying that self-care is all about showing kindness to yourself. So number 1 is stand in front of the mirror and say, my body is strong, my body can do amazing things, my body is my own. Yeah, it's a really sweet book. I mean, when I read it, it's simple and it's basic, but because it's for children, so it's, you know, I am not the intended audience. I thought it was very good, but it's also one of those, because I'm not the intended audience, I zipped through it quite quickly and might forget that I read it, if I'm honest. But I would definitely want to have a book like this when I have my own children. So yeah, would really recommend it. That's Love Your Body by Jessica Sanders. Lovely. So the next book is one that I read, I think at 3 a.m. on the day that I read it, because I couldn't sleep, can't remember why. And so I picked this up and I read it literally cover to cover. So because of that, I know I need to go back and reread it, because I almost definitely don't have a proper kind of memory of it. But it's still very good from what I did read. So this is The Best That We Could Do, which is a illustrated memoir. So it's a graphic memoir. And it's all about the author having her first baby, and then as a result of that kind of encouraging her to look back on her relationship with her parents and think about their history. So both of her parents were refugees from Vietnam because of the Vietnam War. And this is a chunkster, you can see. So there is so much in here. I mean, there's so much about the history of the Vietnam War and growing up in Vietnam and escaping from Vietnam, and the kind of expectations of marriage and motherhood, and what our kind of really early, how our early childhood experiences can, really impact the rest of our lives. So, for example, her father was obviously traumatized as a child, and that kind of carries through, and I think the author then gets a kind of better understanding of how that carried through into adulthood and the way that he expressed himself or didn't express himself very well as an adult and as a father. And the kind of the impact of the mother. So they were still in Vietnam when the author was born, and the author's brothers and sisters were born. But like, there's an example of the mother giving birth in a refugee camp, and also talking about they lost a child. So the mother and father, one of their children died, or even maybe two of their children died, I can't remember. And the impact of that, and the impact of grief, and there's so much in here, which is why I say I definitely needed to go back and read it. The illustration style, I would say, was not my absolute favourite. So what you can see here is that it's basically black and white, but then all coloured with this kind of orangey palette, and that runs the whole way. That's the whole way through. That's the whole style, which I thought was quite interesting. It gives it almost to have that colour wash gives it almost like a dreamlike quality, and I suppose when you're looking back into the past, that's quite apt. So I would say it's not my favourite, but not my least favourite style. But what you can learn from this and the importance of this book, I think, is I don't know what I'm trying to say. Goes without saying, but I'm trying to say it anyway. It's good. It's good. It's good. It's important. Read it. I need to reread it. All clear? Good. The next book was another one that I got for my birthday. So Eve, my friend who I met on Instagram, very kindly gifted me a gorgeous, very generous package of gifts for my birthday. And one of them was this, The Glass Hotel by Emily St. John Mandel. So this has been on my wish list for a little while. I read Station 11 by the same author 3 or 4 years ago, and it was one of the, if not the first, dystopia novel that I read. And I think previously, if you'd said to me, "Do you like dystopia?" I would have been like, "It's probably not my kind of thing. There's probably like zombies or no, thanks." But Station 11, if you've read it, you'll know it's not at all like that, and it's so much more about humanity and what happens to humanity after a kind of apocalyptic or whatever event. So in that case, it was actually a pandemic that wipes out the majority of the human population. So actually, you may be very familiar with Station 11, because I know that a lot of people have been inexplicably reading like pandemic novels, which I find very odd. I mean, fine if it helps you process your trauma, but I would just be like, that's not something that I want to read right now. Anyway, tangent. Station 11 is an absolutely fantastic novel. So this one, one of her follow-ups, I was like, yes, definitely need to read this. So Eve bought it for me for my birthday. Very kind, thank you, Eve. And also, before I get onto the content of the book, I just want to show you, because this is so cool. So there is an amazing artist on Instagram called Natalie, who I will link down below, who makes resin jewellery, and she's also started making resin bookmarks. And she will make custom bookmarks to match to a book cover. So I'd been seeing some of these around Instagram. So Eve had one, for example, and I was kind of thinking, oh, they do look kind of cool. Maybe I need to get one for myself. And lo and behold, didn't even have to ask, Eve bought me one to match this book cover. Now, I'm going to see if you can see it in the camera right now. Can you see? Get it in the light. How perfectly this matches the cover. Look at that. I'm so bowled over by that. I'm obsessed. It's so beautiful. Anyway, that was just a digression. I will link that down below. The Glass Hotel. So this is kind of it's sort of a mystery. So you know that there's a character called Vincent who has gone missing. And then you see her and her half-brother and other characters. It's kind of an ensemble character story, much like Station 11 was. But you see them kind of further back in time. You see their sort of history and how they've kind of reached this place, and it's a mystery, and it's all about so there's a character who's basically implemented like a Ponzi scheme. Is it a Ponzi scheme? Yeah. Financial fraud. and how that interrelates. And it's I'm doing a terrible job of explaining what this book is about, but I think it's because the plot to me is kind of a secondary thing. Emily St. John Mandel does so well with characters, and it's so much more about just being with these characters and being with the writing. Her writing is so elegant and evocative and almost haunting. And so for me, that's what this book gives you. The plot, like I said, the plot to me is secondary. I think actually being framed as a mystery is almost unhelpful, because it's not. And you might go into a mystery thinking, well, what I really want is a gripping plot, and I want a good twist, like a big reveal. And I kind of felt like there was sort of a reveal, but not a really like whoa kind of one. It is so much more about characters and just the world, and just being in the world and experiencing the writing. So that is what I would say. If you're expecting a really gripping mystery, this is not it, but I would really, really recommend it. Just as a book to read, just for the reading experience. I really enjoyed it, and gave it, like, I think 4.5 stars. I think, to be honest, the only reason it wasn't 5 stars was because of that plot, kind of almost plot expectation of like wanting it to, like, where is this going to go, and then feeling like that didn't really pay off. I think if I'd gone in with different expectations, or gone in knowing that, I think I would have been able to sort of let that go, and maybe would have given it 5 stars. I don't know, but it doesn't matter. What is half a star? Who really gives a shit? So, read this. Very good. The next one I should have done earlier that I forgot, was another one of my birthday gifts from Eve, which is I Was Their American Dream. And that is a graphic novel, and the name of the author has deserted me, which is not helpful. And it's another kind of graphic novel memoir, and it's also about kind of immigration and identity. So the author, she is half Filipino, so her mother is from the Philippines, and her father is from Egypt. He's an Egyptian Muslim, I think. And so that's kind of an almost like an unlikely couple, this mother and father, and they get together, they have a baby who is the author, and then they separate not long after. So when the author is a child, and at this point they met. They were both immigrants to America. They met in America, got married in America, and the author was born in America. And so the author is in America, but her father ends up eventually going back to Egypt. And so there's this kind of, it's all about how the author grew up navigating all of those different kind of parts of her and parts of her identity. So, the Filipino part of her, and that family and that heritage, and then going like in the summer to Egypt to spend time with her father and his new family, and that kind of part of things, and the differences and how those two things conflict, but also the joys of it, and what it meant to go to school in America. So then, like, the American part of her, the place that she was born, where she's living, and the idea, I guess, of being multiracial, and not fitting, and not feeling all the time that you fit in to any particular part. So yeah, I think it was good. I quite enjoyed it. I think it was insightful. That one, I didn't particularly love the illustration style, so that kind of put me off a bit, so I gave that, I think, 3.5 stars. I would recommend it to add to the kind of wealth of books about identities and different racial identities and multiracial identities, because I think those kinds of stories are really important. So I would recommend it on that basis, but as I said, the illustration style I just didn't love, wasn't for me. Next one, another graphic novel. So this one was very kindly gifted to me by Emily, Busy Mama Book Club off Instagram. So French Milk by Lucy Knisley. So Lucy Knisley is one of my favourite graphic artists, actually. So her memoir, is it memoir? It might not be memoir, it's too specific, but it's called Something New, which is all about her experience of getting engaged and planning a wedding and getting married. That was one of the first graphic novels I ever read, and it's still one of my favourites. I read it at a time when I was engaged and planning a wedding and kind of freaking out about the whole idea. So I loved it. So Lucy Knisley, as a result, is one of my favourites. So this is actually, I think, her debut. So this is it's basically a travel journal of a time, I think it's about a month, that she spent in France, in Paris, with her mum. And yeah, it's all about kind of like the food that they ate and what they saw and the art and stuff like that. So I think, so this one, so it's all black and white. You see, whereas a lot of her other works are full colour. So it had moments that I found really funny, because she's very funny, she's very witty as an artist, but then otherwise it was it felt a little bit rough and ready, but I think that's understandable because this is her debut and it is just it's a diary basically, it's a travel journal. So yeah, I think, and it felt a little bit fragmented for that reason as well. So the reading experience is a bit not really sure, like it lacks a bit of flow. But it also made me just really nostalgic for Paris. So I've been to Paris a few times and and I love it. It's a beautiful, beautiful city. So yeah, so it's not my favourite of hers, and you can see how her style has progressed if you read her later work. But it did make me feel really nostalgic, and it was really lovely that Emily gifted it to me. And you should hopefully know by now that I love a graphic novel. Emily has been getting into graphic novels. Like she it's like she got into them overnight and is now obsessed, and I love it. So she and I actually did an Instagram live talking about our favourite graphic novels. So if you want to get into this genre and you're looking for recommendations, I will link that down below. It's saved on my IGTV channel. And yeah, you can watch that, check that out and see all the different things that we would recommend. And if you have any of your favourite graphic novels that you want to shout out and let me know, I'd love to read them, then please put them in the comments down below. One more, I think it's just one more. God, oh no, it's not, it's two more. God, I'm so out of practice, guys, my God. Right, penultimate, The Vanishing Half by Brit Bennett. I feel a little bit like, what do I feel like? The Vanishing Half by Brit Bennett. Shocker. I've read The Vanishing Half by Brit Bennett. It's kind of one of those things like, oh yeah, what would you recommend? Oh, The Vanishing Half by Brit Bennett. Yeah, okay. Shocker. And that's, I don't want to be a bitch. I don't want to like undermine the fact that the reason is because it's a very good book. It is a very, very good book. So yes, while I feel like I have massively jumped on the train of love for this book, it's a good book. So The Vanishing Half by Brit Bennett is Bennett's second novel. I read The Mothers a year or two ago and I did really enjoy it. And this is her follow-up. I think this one is maybe slightly better, but they're both very good, very solid books. So this is all about twins who, so Desiree and Stella, they were born and grew up in this town in America where it's African American people have kind of bred themselves. That sounds like an awful word, but I think that's kind of what they've done. They've kind of bred themselves to be lighter and lighter and lighter, to the point where they're very, very fair skinned in this town. And the twins are very fair skinned, very, very, very considered to be very beautiful, and they're so light skinned that they could potentially pass as white. So what happens is that these two, when they're teenagers, they leave their town, they kind of run away, and one of them then comes back. So we see in a kind of future timeline, one of them, Desiree, comes back and she has a child, and her child has very, very dark black skin. So she has gone off and had this child with a darker skinned man, but then the other one, Stella, has kind of vanished, and you find out quite early on that it's because she has chosen to go off and pass as white and live as white, and marry a white man, etc. So it's very interesting, and it really shows, it's a lot about colorism. So colorism is how there is a preference for in people of colour for people who have lighter skin. So it's this kind of proximity to whiteness. It's because whiteness is put, above all else, is the most important thing. And so the closer you are to whiteness, you are seen as more beautiful, etc. And then people with kind of darker tones of skin are discriminated against and seen as less beautiful. So and that is so demonstrated in this book, so demonstrated and so interesting. So you see Desiree's daughter, who has very, very dark skin, and how she is bullied, and how she is made to feel like she's ugly, and it's horrible. And yeah, so if you're not familiar with colorism or the whole kind of idea of it, this is absolutely fantastic absolutely fantastic book to read and understand that in more detail. And it really just shows the arbitrary nature of race and how it's fiction. Race is fiction, and I say that I really don't want to undermine and diminish the huge, far-reaching impact that race has. So racism, very, very real, has a huge impact on people of colour, on the world. And it's the concept of race, so it's a social construct, is fiction, because you have these twins, they're identical twins, and yet Stella has gone off and she lives her life as a white woman, and people don't question it, and you just think, God, that's the fact that can happen just shows you it is all in the mind, it is all in the brain. So yeah, it's a very powerful novel, and I like Bennett's writing. I really like the characters. I think she's a little bit like Emily St. John Mandel in that way, because, and I remembered this from her first novel with the mothers, again, it wasn't a 5-star novel for me. It didn't blow my socks off, and I think it is because the plot for me fizzled a bit. Like, it felt a little bit unresolved, just in my personal opinion, at the end. And I think I felt a similar way to the mothers. But her characters are fantastic, her writing is fantastic, and so it is worth reading to just spend time with them and spend time with that writing. So yeah, I would say I wouldn't tend to pick up a Brit Bennett novel for plot alone. I would pick it up for characters, I would pick it up for writing. I mean, I would pick up anything else she writes. So there you go, that's a good recommendation. But yes, I'm going to shut up about The Vanishing Half, because everyone's talking about this novel and everyone loves it. And justifiably so. Finally, the final book that I read in the first half of August was this one. So this is That Reminds Me by Derek Owusu. So That Reminds Me is fiction. So I thought it was actually non-fiction when I picked it up, but it is fiction. And it is about Kay, who is a young black boy in London. He is sent, or is he in London? He's in the UK. He is sent into care before he's 1. And he eventually returns to his parents. And it's all about it's about growing up as a young black man in Britain, really. So it's about identity, it's about sexuality, it's about mental health. And so the way that this book is told is in these kind of short, I want to say vignettes, but I don't think that'd be correct. So what you can see, look, it's these short little almost verses, even though I don't think this is technically verse, it's still prose. And I just don't know what to say about this book. So I think this is a book, it's very poetic. I am not personally a huge fan of poetry because I find poetry very difficult to understand and to wrap my head around. And I think this was, I think I struggled with this one because of that. So I often find with poetry, for example, that I feel stupid. I feel like a lot of it's kind of gone over my head, and I did struggle to understand some of what was going on here. However, the writing, I could still see the quality of the writing, and the words that he was choosing were exceptional, even if I didn't really understand it all. And I hope that's not just me assuming that because I don't understand it, therefore it must be brilliant. I don't think it is. There were, I mean, obviously it's not that I didn't understand all of it. There were several bits that I did understand, and just every word seemed so deliberate. Every word seemed chosen for a very purposeful reason. And that kind of attention to detail, I think it was exceptional. So I feel like it's So like I said, I don't know what to say. I think I gave it kind of 3.5, 4 stars because I was so torn. Like, I could see the quality of the writing was exceptional, but I kind of came away from it still not fully understanding what it was really about. And that's okay. Like, maybe it's not for me, and that's fine. And that absolutely does not mean it's a bad book. Yeah. It's just one that's kind of left me a little bit, I just don't know. And that's interesting. And I think I might try and reread it again. It might be one that I just have to reread a few times. So I think it's, because there's so much in there. And yeah. I think I've done an absolutely terrible job of talking about this book. But anyway, the other thing I would say is that this has a trigger warning for child abuse, violence, and kind of mental health crisis. So the character has, I think it's either bipolar or borderline personality disorder. I can't remember which. But yeah, and so like kind of the latter sort of 25-30% of the book is really focusing on that, and that you kind of see inside the character's head, and they're sort of spiraling. So if you have mental illness, you may find that could be quite triggering. There we go, that's it. I've wittered on for so long. You can so tell how out of practice I am. I mean, I know I witter on generally, but this is quite appalling. I'm so sorry. So I'm going to try and edit this down to a vaguely acceptable length. But yes, I hope you are all very well. Please let me know what you've been reading in August, or not even just in August. Like, I know I haven't been here for a while, so just tell me what you've been reading generally, what you would recommend, particularly graphic novels, because as you can see, I am bloody loving graphic novels. Yes, and I hope to see you again soon. And oh yes, there you go, so out of practice. If you liked this video, please give me a thumbs up, please subscribe to my channel, and I hope to see you all again soon for another video. Bye! Itchy ear, start again. Oh my god! Drilling.